I'm here with Michelle, and I'm told that Michelle is a bit of a guru for on the Common Core. So Michelle, for those of us who are like me, who are kind of not wise in the ways of Common Core, what are the objections to Common Core? What is the problem with Common Core as you see it?
Well, first of all, you need to know what Common Core is. There's a lot of information that has been out here in the last couple of years that tells us that Common Core is a set of standards and that it's not curriculum and that it's not tied to testing, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. The first thing you need to know about Common Core is what exactly is Common Core. It's a set of standards, that's true. When it came to us in a little after 2008 and the recession, we were in desperate need for money in our schools, and we had the gap elimination adjustment here in New York was supposed to be a one-time thing. That additionally helped in our schools being stripped of the money that we needed desperately. So about that time, in 2009, President Obama came up with Race to the Top. Race to the Top was $4.3 billion that they put out to the states, and it was going to be an opportunity for them to bring in new standards. They were going to be higher standards. They were going to be common. They were going to raise the bar. They were going to allow our children to focus more narrowly on subjects such as math and English. There wasn't enough space to keep science and social studies, but we didn't figure that out until a couple of years into it. $4.3 billion was put out to the states. The National Governors Association, the NGA, so all 50 governors were approached with the concept. And in order for them to get that money, they needed to sign on to the standards. They came back to the states. We had $700 million came to us in New York. And they went to the New York State Education Department. They signed a memorandum of understanding and said, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to enact this because it's great. It's going to be college and career ready. It was basically an outline. It was a blueprint. It sounded great. It was PC language. It was all the right buzzwords. And who was going to object to higher standards? Of course we want higher standards. And so they came back with $700 million. All they had to do was sign on the dotted line. Now here's the kicker. The standards weren't even written yet. They were not even written. We signed on to it. We agreed to it. We enacted a law. Now we get a set of standards that need to be applied in the classroom. In reality, the ambiguous, the terminology sounded fantastic, but teachers were finding out that it was almost impossible to put these standards into play. The writers of the standards, there were no K through 12 educators. There were no education experts that had worked in K through 12, no childhood early development. In fact, 5 of the experts that were on the consortium refused to sign off on them. One of them was Dr. Sandra Stotsky from Massachusetts, who's known for the highest standards in the country. She refused to sign off on them on the ELA, and there's a lot of information about Dr. Stotsky online. She not only said that they were harmful, they were detrimental. Dr. James Milgram, who was the mathematician, has spoken across the country as well, and the math standards will take us back 2 years. At best, our children might get Algebra 2. And so what happened is when they signed, and they refused to sign off on the standards, and the teachers were beginning to find out with the implementation here in New York, we kept hearing things from the news that it's the implementation was the problem, that our teachers didn't have enough professional development. So we found out that in the classrooms it was almost impossible for them to put these standards to work. They had to start working with the curriculum. So we have Engage New York, which is the curriculum based on the standards. So this is when we start tying it together. And the Engage New York modules are full of errors. There's a lot of age-inappropriate data in there. There's a lot of data that the curriculum itself is not designed for that grade level. We have areas today on the test that the kids this week and next week are being tested on things that are 2, 3, and 4 years above their grade level, where it's impossible. They've never been taught it. Much of the curriculum in Engage New York involves thinking. Our children, until they're 12, they don't really have abstract thinking. Much of what they're teaching now, the teachers are doing their best to navigate it, but it's an impossible squishing down. You have children that are learning at all different they need differentiation. You have some children have special needs. You have English language learners. You have advanced placement students. You have 30 different little personalities. They're little human beings that teachers for years and years and decades, they know what they're doing. They have master's degrees. They have early childhood development and understanding. They know how to teach a class of 30 kids. When you have a curriculum that needs to be squished into this time frame on a Tuesday and the third week of the fourth month, and every 7th grader across the country will be taught the same thing, whether they get it or not, you're going to end up leaving some kids behind. You're going to have some advanced students that are going to be bored to death. So we're squishing them to the middle. We're not racing to the top, we're racing to the middle. You trip the kids at the top, bring them to the middle. The kids at the bottom, they're getting left behind. And so you have a series of tests now that we have this week. And Lexiles are readability. That is, a third grader, for example, may have questions and curriculum that is at the 5th, 6th, or 7th grade level. They don't have the cognitive ability, number one, to understand it. They have not been taught it. So what we're finding in the last couple of years is that this is not working. Bill Gates funded much of this to get it started. And so after we took our $700 million here in New York State, we needed to have additional money, so the grants started coming in. And with that, we're finding that even with professional development, the teachers are trying to navigate. These standards are copyrighted, meaning you cannot change a comma, you can't change anything. You cannot go to your Board of Education and say, in our district, we really need to focus on this. You can't go to the New York State Education Department. They can't change it. It's copyrighted. You would have to go through legislation in order to change a single paragraph or a single comma. That's crazy. That's Fed-led ed. Don't let anyone tell you that it is state-led. It's not. Why do they say it's state-led? Because we took the money voluntarily. That's the caveat. It's not. It's Fed-led ed. And so our children are being left behind. Bill Gates said when he started to unroll this thing, when the curriculum aligns with the standards and the standards align with the tests, they will have success. And here's the other thing he said. It's a 10-year experiment. Now, I don't know about you, but K through 12, my kids don't get a do-over.
Right.
This experiment is not going to fly. Nobody knows if it works. Here's the other thing. This supposed 18 months in development to put these standards together, there's no empirical data. There are no studies to support that this is even a model that will work. It's an educational model that is an experiment. All of our kids are experiments. It's just egregious. And so for the money, now you look at the number that we are charged anywhere between $28 to $35 per test per student, with a failure rate of 70% predicted. So a child will end up taking a series of tests this week, 3 days, next week, 3 days, which is more than you would have to sit to take the bar exams. Okay?
Which Governor Cuomo failed 4 times, by the way.
Which Governor Cuomo failed 4 times, yeah. So I would like to see him take the 8th grade. You know what? Let's make it easy. Is he smarter than a 5th grader? I'd like to see him take the test, and we'd like to see his scores. Here's the thing. 70% of them are predicted to fail. How did they ensure that number? They took all the test data, and the cut scores are not determined until months after the fact. So in August or September of the following year, you will now get a raw number of 1 through 4. Teachers have no access to these tests. Nobody knows what's on the tests. It's all secret, proprietary. That's the excuse. And so there's no indication as to what my children's strengths or weaknesses are. We do not have any idea. Teachers cannot use it to drive curriculum. That's another thing that we've heard. This will help drive curriculum and instruction. If you don't know what's on the test and you don't know what the kids got right or wrong, how could you possibly develop a curriculum or instruction to improve?
Right.
So if you get a raw score of 1 through 4, you've told me absolutely nothing. You've told my school nothing. My teacher knows nothing. But guess what? They got a whole lot of data and a whole lot of money. And these kids are going to be promoted anyway. This is not used for promotion. It doesn't go on their transcripts. The only thing that it is used for is evaluation against your school for ratings and your teachers, which we're going to see a high percentage of teachers rated ineffective. It's egregious.
Well, thank you very much. I learned a lot, and I kind of instinctively knew that with the government involved in it, it was probably a train wreck and not a good idea.
It's all about money.
Thank you for kind of opening that up, because I didn't know that, and I'm going to guess a lot of my viewers didn't either.
I got a whole lot more, but I think we touched on enough of it. Just the testing. If you're going to do it, refuse the tests. Refuse the tests right now. I just checked about 20 minutes ago. We're collecting the raw data. There's a number of us. There is a site you can go to if you haven't refused as of yet. It's United. We're all united together. So write out the word United, the number 2, to counter. We are countering back. We're pushing back. United to counter. There is an online personal letter generator so that you can get your refusal letter. It's not too late. You still have tests next week. You want to refuse. Right now we're at 38% of the districts that are reporting that we have credible information. We're at over 130,000 refusals right now.
Excellent.
First year that we did refusals, we had 10,000. Last year we had 60,000. This year we're at 130,000 plus, with only 38% of the districts reporting, which means that statistically that data is now invalid. So anything at this point forward, do not put your child through the abuse. You'll never know what it is. Children are getting sick, anxiety. Some kids are wetting themselves. There are instances in a number of districts across the state where they're providing treats and rewards to children that are taking the tests and the other children are not. We have a lot of really bad issues happening here with these tests, and it's not going to do anybody any good. Do yourself a favor, do your children a favor, save your teachers, save your schools, and do not upload the data. One more thing I want to talk to you about data. Under the Common Core Learning Standards and what we have currently going on, because everything is, they're collecting 400 data points on your children. Personally identifiable information. It only takes seven data points for identity theft. 400 are going up into the cloud, and anyone outside of the education industry that has an educational reason to access that, third-party access is what I'm saying.
Right.
That is a gold mine. So do not participate in it.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you
you taking the time to talk to me.
Thanks.